The Vandal Who Painted Me. Written by Johnny Fist. Do you know what humiliation feels like? Like humiliation, nothing else. When someone tries to put you in your place in front of everyone, even though it's not your place at all, or makes a point of showing your incompetence, that's called humiliation. Nothing more, nothing less. It's one thing when you bring it on yourself, but it's something entirely different when it happens for reasons beyond your control. Because people around you are bastards or idiots. Singular or plural, doesn't matter. But even among them, there are some who later sincerely regret what they've done. Not publicly, of course. Not in front of everyone. They might wait for you somewhere in an alley or near your home where no one can see them humbling themselves, asking forgiveness from yesterday's victim. But sometimes there are exceptions. Once I happened to wander into an art exhibition. I don't understand all that painterly stuff. Whether someone writes or paints, it's all the same to me. But for them, these wielders of pens and brushes, it's a matter of principle. It's crucial that their works be called by the right names. Anyway, I went to that exhibition. Not on purpose, I was just walking by and saw a small crowd near a cozy-looking place. I got curious about what they were doing there, and they told me there was an exhibition of paintings by a young but exceptionally promising artist in the basement. They even compared him to some famous painters, throwing around names that meant absolutely nothing to me. I nodded along, pretending I knew who they were talking about. I didn't. Then someone mentioned that at exhibitions, wine is usually served to guests for free. And that, frankly, was the only detail that caught my real attention and persuaded me to go downstairs. Yes, the place was cozy. Dim lighting. Only the paintings were lit. Everyone looked like artists. Or maybe that's just how you're supposed to dress for an exhibition. Or maybe they really were artists who, out of solidarity, attend each other's shows and make up the entire audience. I don't know. It was my first time, and I clearly didn't fit in. Look at that crowd and then look at me. You'd immediately see that if I wasn't an outsider, I was at least an accidental visitor. Which I was. Before approaching the wine table, I stopped, out of politeness, by one painting, then another. I stood there pretending to study them intently, as if deeply engaged in each brushstroke, or at least the overall composition. Then I threw a quick glance toward the table with the wine glasses and began to make my way there. I figured that both artists and ordinary visitors probably appreciate art better after a glass of wine. And indeed, after finishing a glass of semi-sweet white, I began to feel that I understood the paintings a little more. Thankfully, the labels helped. Under each painting was written the word abstraction. As I moved from one painting to the next, I murmured to myself, good abstraction. Whether I was approving the artist's work or reassuring myself that I'd understood it, who knows? Then I came to a painting titled Abstraction in Pink. On a white canvas, there were wide pink brushstrokes, as if the artist had just hurled paint at it in the hope something magnificent would emerge. To me, it looked like nothing more than pink smears. But the lofty word abstraction excused the smears. The artist, and my shallow understanding of art alike, by my third glass, I was beginning to feel truly inspired. My sense of the beautiful had widened, so to speak. A young man approached me, looking no different from the rest, and stood beside me to gaze at abstraction in pink. He asked what I thought. Were the brushstrokes too bold? Slightly drunk and completely unacquainted with artistic etiquette, I answered honestly, hard to ruin a mess like this, whether the strokes are wide or narrow. My fellow art lover was visibly outraged. He began looking around, as if searching for witnesses to my blasphemy. Maybe artists have some secret signaling system, or maybe not. But suddenly, we were surrounded by nearly everyone in the room, even those who'd been outside. A performance began, one that could easily have been titled My Humiliation. As it turned out, that man was the artist himself, the author of that very abstraction I had so kindly and somewhat drunkenly called a mess, Before everyone present, he started putting me in my place, explaining that the only beautiful thing I could possibly have seen was my own naked body. And even that, he said, looked less like God's creation and more like something sculpted from third-rate clay. I didn't know clay even had grades. Like flour, but I took his word for it. I tried to argue, but the crowd was on his side, nodding and casting disapproving looks at me. Someone even compared my lack of taste to that of a total ignoramus, saying that as an artist I was nothing, and as a cultured person I was beneath even Klestakov. How he entered the conversation I couldn't tell you, but from an ignoramus to Klestakov there's quite a distance, and I'd apparently crossed it with one sentence. Quite a talent I have, eh? The humiliation lasted 25, maybe 30 minutes. I apologized and quickly tried to make my way through the crowd. People who seemed far more entertained by the performance than by the paintings. It even seemed to me that, like the free wine, this was part of the program. Exhibition opening, wine drinking, and the ritual public shaming of a fool. The artist satisfied, the audience delighted. Perhaps that's how it works. I left, and that night I thought about the exhibition, my behavior, and the so-called abstraction, which more and more seemed like pure nonsense. Morning came. I went outside and saw a man sweeping the courtyard. By some strange coincidence, it was him, the author of Abstraction in Pink. Our eyes met. This time, the balance of power was clear. Me in a suit, him in a janitor's uniform. No mistaking who was who now. It wasn't a gallery anymore. We stood there for a moment, then went our separate ways. He, lowering his gaze, resumed sweeping, and I went to work. All day long, between tasks, I kept thinking about the messy abstraction, the artist turned janitor, and the humiliation I had suffered, his by words, mine by appearance alone. That evening, coming home, I instinctively glanced around the courtyard, half expecting to see him at work. Not with a brush this time, but with a broom. He wasn't there. Then I remembered that his exhibition was running for a month. He was probably spending his evenings there among his people. A month passed. I had almost forgotten the whole thing. Occasionally I'd spot him in the distance, sweeping the street in the mornings. You know how it is. No one really looks at janitors, so I couldn't tell how long he'd been there. Anyway, I'd forgotten about him and the incident entirely, until one evening someone rang my doorbell. I opened the door, and there he was. The very same artist who had so publicly humiliated me. And why do you think he came? You guessed it. To apologize. His words weren't as eloquent this time. No complex sentences, no flair, just simple, awkward apologies. I replied calmly. My calmness made him even more nervous. He grew increasingly agitated, as if every short, quiet answer of mine deepened his discomfort. Finally, when he seemed to have run out of ways to apologize, he said that, as a gesture of reconciliation, he would paint a picture for me and give it as a gift. I asked, "Why paint? Don't you draw pictures?" That same spark of irritation flared up in his eyes, the same one I'd seen in the gallery. He even glanced sideways, as if searching for someone to back him up, then remembered where he was, why he was here, and that there'd be no backup this time. So he agreed that yes, I was right. He'd draw a picture for me and give it as a gift. I reminded him that I understood nothing about art and had nowhere to hang a painting anyway. He kept insisting, wanting me to accept this future masterpiece as a peace offering. I said I wasn't angry, that it was all in the past. He said he'd think of something and left, wishing me a good night. I went to bed with a clear conscience. The next morning, as usual, I stepped outside on my way to work and froze by the entrance. The familiar janitor artist was there, smiling at me. At first I was startled, then confused. His smile looked strained. Then he asked, "Well, how do you like it?" I didn't understand. "Like what?" I asked. He nodded toward the wall of the neighboring building, the one that had been plain white just yesterday today, from the ground all the way to the roof. 5 stories high, there was an enormous abstraction, and I immediately understood what it was. Abstraction in orange. Broad orange strokes covered the entire wall from bottom to top, and in large letters below for everyone to see. This painting is dedicated to the resident of apartment number 43. There was no doubt who it was for. Some people get love declarations on their walls, others get illegal ads. I, however, had been honored with a forgivable abstraction. Now I understood what he had meant. At his exhibition, I could leave and never come back. But here, I couldn't just move away, buy a new apartment, or avoid the sight. Every time I looked out the window or stepped into the courtyard, there it would be, this 15-meter tall smear of orange paint. I regretted not accepting the painting for my home, at least that one I could have hidden away. But this, no hiding, no escaping, no gouging out my eyes to avoid seeing it. I thanked him and said that I couldn't have imagined a better apology. It would stay with me for a very long time, perhaps forever. And that's how, on one casual evening, I decided to have a free glass of wine and immerse myself in art. Well, I did immerse myself, head first, and for a long, long time. Thank you.